It was almost midnight when Ethan Turner drove past the long stretch of rural road in upstate New York. He had been on his way home from a late business meeting when his car's GPS suddenly glitched, rerouting him through a town he had never heard of. The name that appeared on his screen made him uneasy. Hollow Pines. He had lived in New York his entire life, but had never seen that town on any map. His fuel gauge blinked dangerously low, forcing him to take the exit. The town was silent, shrouded in mist, with dim streetlights that flickered as though they were struggling to stay alive. Abandoned storefronts lined the street, their windows shattered and their signs faded with time. There was no sign of life, no passing cars, not even the bark of a stray dog. Yet, Ethan could not shake the feeling that countless unseen eyes were watching him from the shadows. His car sputtered one final time before shutting off completely, right in front of a massive Victorian-style house perched at the end of the street. The house loomed like a giant, its windows dark and hollow, yet something about it felt awake. Ethan debated whether to stay inside his car until morning, but the biting cold seeped in quickly. He decided to seek shelter inside, promising himself it was just for a few hours. As he pushed open the rusted gate, it groaned like a scream, echoing into the fog. The path leading to the front door was overgrown with weeds, and the wooden porch sagged under his weight. The front door was already slightly open, swaying gently as though it had been waiting for him. Inside, the air was colder than outside, thick with the smell of rotting wood and damp earth. The wallpaper peeled off in strips, revealing claw-like scratches underneath, as if something had tried to dig its way out of the walls. A massive chandelier hung above, coated in dust and spiderwebs, yet every crystal shimmered faintly, reflecting a light source that Ethan could not identify. He whispered a nervous hello, hoping someone might answer, but the house swallowed his voice, replacing it with a low creaking sound that traveled down the hallway. Against his better judgment, he stepped deeper inside, his footsteps echoing unnaturally loud, as though the house was amplifying every sound he made. The first room he entered looked like an old parlor. Torn furniture was scattered across the floor, and a fireplace sat at the center, filled with ashes far too fresh for a house that appeared abandoned for decades. On the wall above the fireplace hung a portrait of a family, two parents and a little girl. Their faces were strangely blurred, painted with distorted smears, except for the girl. Her wide eyes seemed startlingly real, as if she had been painted into the portrait alive. Ethan felt a chill ripple through him when he realized her gaze followed him across the room. He quickly turned away, but out of the corner of his eye, he swore he saw her lips curve into the faintest smile. A loud thump echoed upstairs, shaking the ceiling dust loose. Ethan froze. He told himself it must be an animal trapped inside, but then came the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps. They moved across the upper floor, directly above where he was standing, and then stopped. Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Mustering courage, Ethan climbed the grand staircase, each step groaning under his weight. Halfway up, the chandelier below rattled violently, as though invisible hands were shaking it, but when he turned, nothing was there. The upper hallway stretched endlessly, lined with doors on both sides. Every door had deep scratch marks on it, as though something had tried to claw its way inside or out. Ethan's heart pounded as he tried one door after another, all locked. But at the very end of the hall, a single door stood slightly open, just enough to show a sliver of darkness inside. He pushed it wider, revealing a child's bedroom frozen in time. Toys were scattered across the floor, and a small bed sat against the wall, neatly made. On the bed lay a single porcelain doll, its face cracked, one glass eye missing. Ethan stepped closer, and the doll's head slowly turned toward him with a grinding snap. He stumbled back in horror as the doll whispered in a child's voice, "You shouldn't be here." The bedroom door slammed shut behind him, locking itself. Ethan's pulse raced as he yanked the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The room grew darker, shadows stretching unnaturally across the walls. Suddenly, the closet door creaked open, revealing complete darkness inside. From within came the sound of breathing, slow, ragged, inhuman. The doll's head turned toward the closet, and with a sinister smile, it whispered again, "She's awake now." Before Ethan could react, long, skeletal hands shot out from the closet, reaching for him. He tore the door open and bolted down the hallway, not daring to look back. As he descended the stairs, the entire house seemed alive. Walls pulsed like veins, the floorboards twisted beneath his feet, and whispers filled the air, overlapping into a deafening chorus. "Stay with us. Forever." The front door slammed shut as he reached it, trapping him inside. He pounded on it desperately, but the wood began to feel soft under his hands, melting into a fleshy texture. The portrait in the parlor now showed the family standing without blurred faces, except the little girl was gone. He spun around, only to see her standing at the base of the stairs, her pale face smiling, her hollow eyes fixed on him. In her hand, she clutched the porcelain doll, which now looked perfectly intact. The girl spoke in a voice that was not her own, deep and echoing. "You were never lost. We brought you here." Ethan staggered backward as the floor beneath him split open, revealing a black void filled with writhing shapes. Screams erupted from the abyss, hundreds of voices crying out in agony. Before he could move, skeletal hands burst from the floor, wrapping around his legs, dragging him down. He fought desperately, clawing at the ground, but the girl only tilted her head and whispered softly, "You belong to the house now." The last thing Ethan saw before the darkness swallowed him was the girl's smile widening into something inhuman, stretching far too wide across her face. Then, silence. The house stood still again, quiet and lifeless, waiting patiently for its next visitor.